It was 2:41 a.m. when the Coast Guard received the call. "Yeah, my wife fell overboard somewhere around Seaglass Bay," said a man's voice, eerily calm, even rehearsed. "I didn't see it happen. She was just gone." The dispatcher asked his name. "Thomas Adler." Thomas was calling from his yacht, a pristine 60-foot vessel named the Alibi. He sounded emotionless, not a trace of panic, not a sliver of dread, just static silence and the rhythmic lapping of waves. It was as if he had lost a pet fish, not his wife of 10 years. But that wasn't the disturbing part. Roughly 27 minutes after his emergency call, Thomas called an escort service. "Send someone out," he said. "Blonde, if possible. I'm anchored out near the southern ridge." He gave the same latitude and longitude he'd shared with the Coast Guard. The prostitute arrived just minutes before rescue divers did. This case would shatter an entire coastal town, unravel a life filled with secrets, manipulation, and betrayal, and reveal how a man carefully staged the murder of his wife, only to indulge in pleasure moments after watching her drown. Stay with us as we uncover a true crime so cold-blooded it stunned even the most seasoned detectives. This is True Crime Feedback, and this is the case of after pushing his wife into the sea, the man calmly called a prostitute. Thomas and Isabel Adler were the golden couple of Whispering Shore, a wealthy community on the coast of California. He was a financial consultant with a polished reputation. She was a former art curator turned philanthropist. Together, they were considered a power duo, charming, tasteful, envied. Neighbors often spoke of their parties, rooftop cocktails, jazz nights, and the yacht cruises. Isabel would always host with elegance. Thomas always arrived late, but with a smile. Behind the glittering surface, however, there were cracks. Isabel confided in her sister that Thomas had changed. "He talks to me like I'm just in the way," she once texted. "He watches me when I'm not looking. There's something wrong in his eyes." Thomas had become distant, moody, and strangely secretive. He'd disappear for nights, return without explanation, and had recently started suggesting they go on more boat trips, just the two of them. In October 2023, they left for what Thomas called a reconnecting getaway along the California coast. Isabel would never return. When the Coast Guard arrived, they found Thomas waiting on the deck of the Alibi, sipping bourbon, shirtless, completely dry. "Where's your life vest?" one officer asked. "Didn't think I'd need it," he replied. Search teams scoured the surrounding water. After 6 hours, a diver spotted something below, a woman's body, tangled in fishing lines and weighted with a chain. When they recovered her, Isabel's neck bore bruises, 2 on each side, consistent with manual force. Her fingernails were cracked, some bloodied. But here's where the story twisted into true darkness. An escort named Cindy came forward. She'd been hired by Thomas that night. He was chilling, she told investigators, like smiling, flirty, even cracked a joke. Said his wife had gone swimming earlier. "I didn't get it until I saw the news later." Her testimony painted a haunting picture. Thomas had planned the entire thing, a romantic cruise, a candlelit dinner. Then, under the cover of night, he'd pushed Isabel into the sea, knowing she couldn't swim. When she surfaced, he struck her head with a champagne bottle, dragged her by the hair, and used a chain he'd hidden in the deck box to pull her under. The Coast Guard's forensic team confirmed the injury to Isabel's skull. They also found a chilling detail in the yacht's digital system. The GPS had been manipulated to show a different anchor location. Thomas had tried to confuse the rescue team, but he wasn't careful enough. Detective Lena Morales of the Monterey Homicide Unit had handled more than 40 murder cases. She said later, "This was the most methodical sociopathy I've ever seen." Morales immediately flagged the timing of Thomas's escort call. She subpoenaed his phone records. Not only had he contacted the escort service shortly after Isabel vanished, but he'd also texted a friend. "She's finally gone. Drink soon?" Morales brought Thomas in for questioning. He smiled the entire time. "You think I killed her?" he asked. "Prove it." He requested a lawyer immediately after, but then came the break. A deckhand from the harbor came forward. 2 weeks earlier, he'd helped Thomas load something onto the yacht, a chain, zip ties, a heavy padlock. "He said it was for anchoring at deeper sea levels," the deckhand said. "But I'd never seen someone anchor like that." Surveillance footage from the marina also showed Thomas purchasing nylon rope and gloves 2 days before the trip. He was spotted testing the chain on a buoy, wrapping it around with eerie precision. The evidence mounted. Ballistics and forensic teams tied the champagne bottle's shards to injuries on Isabel's head. Her skin had traces of the same rope found on Thomas's yacht. A forensic pathologist testified that her cause of death was not accidental drowning, but blunt force trauma followed by asphyxiation. Detective Morales arrested Thomas Adler on charges of first-degree murder. The man smiled in his mugshot. The trial began in August 2024. It lasted 31 days. The prosecution painted Thomas as a sociopath, obsessed with control, who saw his wife as disposable once she challenged his ego. They presented text messages, GPS data, forensic analysis, and chilling testimony from the escort. The defense tried to spin the narrative. They claimed Isabel slipped, hit her head, and fell overboard. Thomas, in shock, acted irrationally and didn't understand what he was doing when he made the escort call. The jury didn't buy it. When Cindy, the escort, testified in court, she said, "He looked like he was celebrating something, like he'd just gotten away with a scam." A forensic psychologist profiled Thomas as a narcissist with antisocial tendencies, who likely fantasized about Isabel's death long before it happened. On September 14, 2024, the jury found Thomas Adler guilty of first-degree murder and obstruction of justice. He was sentenced to life without parole. In the months that followed, the alibi was sold at auction. Locals claim it's cursed. The new owner swore he heard screams echoing from the cabin during his first night on board. He never sailed it again. Isabel's sister started a foundation in her name to support domestic abuse victims who feel trapped in perfect marriages. As for Thomas, he sits in San Quentin State Prison, cell B147. He reportedly talks to himself, telling guards he's writing a book, but he never writes anything down. He just stares out the window, smiling. What drives someone to commit such a cold, calculated act? To take a life, then indulge in pleasure as if nothing happened? Some monsters hide behind tuxedos and champagne flutes. Some board luxury yachts, whisper sweet promises, and then push their victims overboard. If you found this case chilling, disturbing, and thought-provoking, make sure you subscribe to True Crime Feedback, where we bring you the darkest, most twisted real-life crimes every week. Don't forget to like, comment your thoughts on this case, and turn on notifications so you never miss a single story. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe.